the disease that we can easily have from accumulation of bad fats in our blood vessels. And the risk or the result effect is heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular death. It is very possible for somebody to be laughing, eating, going to work, and die the following day. Very possible. So, when we eat whole grain, we are creating a 22% reduction in the risk of coronary heart disease. Now, in medical practice, anything that is up to 5% result or achievement is significant. So, when I'm mentioning any value and I'm mentioning anything 5% and above, it means you have to pay attention to it. For example, if we have 100 people and 5 people, something is causing this for them, it means that thing is actually significant. So when we eat whole grain, we are, creating a 22%, we are lowering our risk of coronary heart disease by 22%. And examples are brown rice, your whole wheat bread, your oatmeal. They are good source of fiber and other nutrients. They are considered whole grains because they contain entire grain kernel, including the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. So then I will still explore further. So we talk about quantity too. So intake of low amount of low grain intake, when you take it in a very low quantity, is second to high sodium intake. Somebody putting high salt in food, the risk you are going to get is second to when you take low amount of whole grain, according to the global burden of disease 2017. Then high intake of refined starches. Refined starches are those starchy foods that have been processed to remove their natural fiber, vitamins, and minerals to make them easily digestible. I have been able to, bring a lot of examples of food so that we will benefit from this lecture. Like your white bread, your white rice, and many breakfast cereals and sugars drive blood glucose spikes, insulin resistance, and weight gain. People bother themselves about gaining weight, and you can see here that they will carry. So we are going to see the reason why those things are common here. We are going to see the reason why some children, people normally born some type of children here, when they relocate to the UK, even it affects us too. When we relocate to the UK, you see the tendency of giving birth to some type of children. How our diet determine who we become, or the kind of lifestyle we are going to live. Kind of life we are going to live, the quality of our life. The Bible says that above all, I pray that your soul prospers, just as your body prospers. So let's look at the third macronutrient, which is fat and oil. I mentioned the fatty acids, the saturated ones, and the unsaturated ones. So when the saturated fats, talking about research, when it was replaced with the polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats, there was 30% relative reduction in major cardiovascular events like myocardial infarction, stroke, cardiovascular death. Now, we have a chemistry. If we have a chemistry basis, I'll just remind us, but if we don't have it, when you talk about fat and oil, those that when you put them at normal room temperature, like in this place now, we become solid. They are the saturated fats. So, and those that will not become solid at normal room temperature, they are the polyunsaturated fats and the monounsaturated fats. So in that research, they replaced saturated fats with polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. And there was 30% relative reduction in major cardiovascular events, myocardial infarction, stroke, cardiovascular deaths. Now, this one will prompt how we change the oil that we are using to cook. Well, as we continue the lecture, we are going to see it. So, for the saturated fats, low intake is advised. These are mothers here. You cannot base your cooking oil on saturated fats. Palm oil is 50% saturated fat, 40% monounsaturated fat, and 10% polyunsaturated fat. But I'm still going there. So there are a lot. That's why I say, if I say this is not good, I will tell us various examples of those that are not good and various examples of those that are good, so that we have a lot of choices. So the polyunsaturated fats, by chemistry nature, they have 2 or more double bonds. They are your omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid found in fatty fish. They are very good. Nuts, your cashew nuts, seeds, and certain oils like sunflower oil. Grapeseed oil is available in Lidl. Grapeseed oil. These are polyunsaturated fats. Flaxseed oil, soya bean oil, corn oil. So an example of monounsaturated fat, they are also good fats. They are containing 1 double bond in their molecular structure. In chemistry, pharmacy is basically chemistry. Yeah. So olive oil, avocados oil, nuts, your almonds, when you talk about nuts, your almonds, your cashews, your hazelnuts, and some vegetable oil. So there are some oil in the market that will contain 2, 3, 4, 5 polyunsaturated fat and oil. They are good. Some will not be only just grapeseed oil. Some might have sunflower, corn, soy, flaxseed together. They are good. Then, like I said, our palm oil is having 50% saturated oil, 40% monounsaturated oil, and 10% polyunsaturated oil. So it is half good, half bad. So I'm going to be talking about the DASH diet and blood pressure, but I will explore it more after. The DASH diet is a medical term. The DASH approaches to stop hypertension. D for dietary, A for approaches, S for stop, H for hypertension. So the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So according to the New England Journal of Medicine, effects head across races, sex, and baseline blood pressure levels. So it's not actually that when you're an African, it's not applicable to you. So this research held effects across races, sexes, and baseline blood pressure levels. Emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and low-fat dietary. Low-fat dairy. When you're going to your Lidl, you see one low-fat. You see one high-fat. The low-fat. So low-fat dairy. While limiting sodium, saturated fats, and added sugars. So the DASH diet is also a very healthy way to lose weight. So when people spend money and they do this, do that, they want to lose weight, just go with DASH diet. So I'm going to give, when I get to the takeaway, I will summarize the takeaway. So when we talk about proteins, that is the third macronutrient. So we have animal protein and plant protein. So there is a research that says that higher plant protein intake was associated with an 8% lower all-cause mortality risk and 12% reduction in cardiovascular disease. Now, we call something all-cause mortality risk. That is something that could cause death. Those things that, when they look at all the deaths figures, what are the causes of all the deaths that they have researched on? That is all-cause mortality risk. So when we take more of plant protein, we are working on 8% reduction of all-cause mortality risk and 12% reduction of cardiovascular disease. We know that some of our parents have high blood pressure, cardiovascular diseases, and that is one major predisposing factor. If you are above 25, as an African, as a white, if you are above 40. So sources of plant proteins are the legumes, your beans, your lentils, your chickpeas, nuts and seeds, soy products, tofu, tempeh, certain grains like quinoa, others are seitan, nutritional yeasts, and even certain vegetables like edamame and peas, your peas. Those that work in care home will do peas, and some of us here, they are good plant protein sources. So animal sources include your meat, your poultry, your fish, your eggs, and dairy products. So according to a systematic review in Biomed Central, so they found that replacing red meat with poultry, eggs, nuts, or legumes lowered cardiac heart disease risk. Conversely, high processed meats like bacons, sausages, the hot dog, and others increased colorectal cancer and type 2 diabetes risk. Now, some of us will wonder, in this country, why do they normally have cancer? Can you see what they base their food on? But the truth that the fact that people will even know what will destroy them. You know, on cigarette, smokers are liable to die, or people will still take it. So now that is what is killing them here. And that is what kills immigrants too when they come here. So the micronutrients and dietary fibers. Now, I have to dwell more on these macronutrients and dietary fibers because I will be using them later. So your micronutrients are your vitamins, your minerals. They are vital for bodily functions. They are needed in smaller quantities when compared to the micronutrients like your fats, your carbohydrates, and proteins. So these nutrients are crucial for processes like energy production, immune function, bone health, and cell function. So vitamin D deficiency affects up to 1/3 UK adults tested in primary care, impairing bone health, immunity, and potentially atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease risk in later life. So, and that results in heart attack, stroke, and other heart accidents. And that's why they can actually base a sector on, the social care, and it's really a big sector that they have a lot of people, and they are still opening more and more, and they have a lot of people coming in with those things that I'm mentioning. Because of 1 out of 3 UK adults have vitamin D deficiency. I was walking one day and I was eating bone from the chicken. The white guy said, are you that hungry? So I know know the reason why they lack calcium and vitamin D. He asked me, are you that hungry? He saw me eating the chicken bone and it's soft. And the reason why I'm eating it was I want vitamin D, I want calcium from it. And he said, are you that hungry? It surprised him that how can somebody be eating bone? It's supposed to be given to dogs or something. Iron and vitamin B12 deficiencies are rising in the UK. So those of us that have migrated, we should know how we are going to, deal with this area. Iron and vitamin B12 deficiencies are rising in the UK, especially among vegetarians and anyone among the at-risk group. At-risk group. Who are the at-risk group? Everyone. At risk. It's not as if you already have it, but you are at risk. So example of vitamin D can be obtained through food, like the bone. Please don't eat hard bone that can break your teeth. You can have it from sunlight. You can see they don't really have sunlight here. You can be going to work and you are working every day and you are not exposed to sunlight. You leave your house by 6, you get to work by 7:30, you close by 7:30, sunlight has gone and you are working every day. No exposure to sunlight. Even break time, you are not allowed to go outside of the building for break. No sunlight. Can you see the life? So please, these are the things that we should actually deliberately adjust.
Jesus is Lord.
So the lifestyle can actually, predispose us to those things. So examples, I said, your sunlight and supplements. And the truth is that when you go to the GP, in their calendar here, they don't give supplements. They don't give supplements. So, but we have some, I think Arrett and Barrett sell supplements. As you walk, you need to take supplements. So natural food sources of vitamin D includes oily fish. Fish that are oily, they are very good. They contain polyunsaturated fats. Like your salmon, they eat that a lot. Sardines, and it's not even every one of them that even eats the salmon, but it's here in the UK. And tuna, as well as egg yolks and beef liver. But when you get to the NHS, they will advise pregnant women not to eat liver. Who is a witness to that? They will ask you not to eat beef liver. But it's a good source of vitamin. That's why 1 out of 3 UK adults have vitamin D deficiency. They have this research with them, but because they know that people may not cook the liver well, so the best advice is to advise pregnant women to cook it well and eat healthy beef liver. Not that you should not eat beef liver. The yolk of egg, some people throw the yolk away, and that is the important part. Even the Yoruba believe when they want to pray, they pray with that yolk. So some foods like dairy and breakfast cereals are also fortified with vitamin D. Iron-rich foods include your meat, your fish, your beans and leafy greens, your leafy greens, your greens. While vitamin B12 is primarily found in animal products like meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. So fortified cereals and plant-based milk alternatives can also be good sources to both vitamin D and iron-rich foods. So when you eat fortified cereals and plant-based meat, they are good alternatives to both. So now we talk about the diet and the gut microbiomes. Diet shapes gut microbial diversity. Your gut is the long tube from your mouth down to the anus. That is the gastrointestinal tract. So there are some normal microorganisms that should be there. So your diet shapes those microorganisms. And I will go to let me quickly mention about the autism spectrum disorder. You see those children, they are choosy, they cannot eat some food, they are this. So you see, when they take their gut and they tested the microbiomes in the gut, they found that some normal flora, which I will mention, some normal general, some normal microbiomes, they are lacking in their gut. So what you eat determines whether somebody that does not eat pepper, there are some microbiomes that will never be in your gut, and you need them. So high fiber, plant-rich diets boost beneficial microbacteria. It's not all microbacteria that are harmful. It is when they get to a particular level that they become harmful. That's why you can see boarding house students when they don't have enough water in boarding school, like the boarding school I went to, we took water from the ground and drank, and we were not sick. By God's grace, to tell you that when your body can still overcome some level of microorganism, it will still be okay. Normally, there are some microorganisms that are beneficial. So Western dietary lifestyle of intake of high fat, low fiber, reduce diversity and promote pro-inflammatory taxa, like bifidobacterium. Bifidobacterium is very good in the gut at a normal floral level, because it helps in short chain fatty acid production. So this impacts metabolic, immune, and even mental health prevalence in Europe. You know, when you go online and you even check, mental health is mostly prevalent in Europe, especially the Western Europe. So you can find that in PMC, in the Biomed Central. These are medical journals. So we can see why they have high mental health issues here, which should have been. It's not only the attitude and the behaviors that you get from people. When you hit some things, they can reduce the effects of those things, and you won't have a resulting mental health. So individuals with autism spectrum disorder have altered taxa of gut microbiomes, and their behaviors are associated with the diversity of their gut microbiomes. You see them in distressing behavior, it is because they don't have some particular microbiomes in their gut. So then we go to our ultra-processed foods. Some of us like ultra-processed foods. They are energy dense, nutrient poor, high in additives, and they are linked to obesity. That's why you see them obese here. You see the large thing here. I'm sorry to say that, but you see them. That's the lifestyle. That's how they behave. That's what they are eating. It's not as if they are even eating large quantity like that, like we eat in Africa. But those unhealthy, they accumulate. They are not digested. So they are linked to obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular events, mental health disorder, and emerging data on neurodegenerative illness, like the Alzheimer's disease, forgetting things. You can't remember things in the past. You can only remember things at present. Loss of memory. Parkinson's disease. You see hands shaking when people hold things. They cannot even hold things to fall down. And Huntington's disease. So, also, this has been found to be associated with autism spectrum disorder in animal studies only. When you are eating ultra-processed food. The other ones, they are in humans, but ultra-processed food causing ASD, autism, is only found in animal studies, yet, as of now. So a biomedical journal cohort study found that each 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 14% higher all-cause mortality. So the more you increase your ultra-processed food by 10%, something you should eat occasionally, you now increase it by just only 10%. So they increased it by just 10%. The Jones, thank you, sir. So it produced 14% higher all-cause mortality. So the British Heart Foundation notes that ultra-processed foods often contain high levels of added sugars, you would agree with that, unhealthy fats, and salt. Also, the Food Standards Agency says that these foods are often high in fat, sugar, salt, and they can contribute to poor dietary patterns. An example include your sweetened drinks, your snacks, your ready meals. You don't want to cook at home, the ready meals. Breakfast cereals, meat products, sausages, hot dogs, burgers, and chicken nuggets. It is Food Standards again. This is UK. They are the one that. So your sausages, your hot dogs, it's not as if you cannot eat them at all. But once in a while. If you don't want to, you know what is happening to them here happen to you. If you don't want the UK to happen to you. Because when 1 out of 3 are expressing something in the UK, then it means it's a norm in the UK. What makes you excluded if you don't take precaution? So let's go to sugar-sweetened beverages. So globally, sugar-sweetened beverages contribute substantially to excess weight gain and type 2 diabetes body. So when you always take sugar-sweetened beverages, now they now write 0 sugar on most drinks because of tax. They are still using sugar. They are liars. They are still using sugar. But because there's a high tax on any product you are producing and you write there, or you are using high level of sugar, you write there, you put sugar, and they tax your company. So they now write 0 sugar. Scam. So that can be found in PubMed. So a meta-analysis of 1.5 million adults, if we can gather 1.5 million adults and we do a research, we should be able to have a good result from that. So that research showed that sugar-sweetened beverages intake increases obesity, cardiovascular diseases risk, and is strongest for type 2 diabetes. Your carbonated drinks, every those things, Your fruits that have been put with additives and all those things. Your fruit drinks. They use sugar to preserve also, like they use salt. But they are using them in high quantity. So, I said I'll be talking about recommended dietary patterns, which is evidence-based. So, one of them is the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is recommended. So, it's a way of eating based on traditional food patterns from countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea, emphasizing plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and legumes. It also includes moderate amount of lean proteins from sources like fish, poultry, and eggs, along with low-fat dairy and red wine in moderation. I will explain the quantity of red wine, and I will also tell us that if we have not been taking alcohol, we should not start. It's also in their research. For women, it's because they mentioned red wine here, the Mediterranean diet is recommended and is a way of eating based on traditional food patterns from countries bordering the Mediterranean Sea, emphasizing plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and legumes. It also includes moderate amounts of lean protein from sources like fish, poultry, and eggs, along with low-fat dairy and red wine in moderation, according to PubMed. So women, they say up to 1 glass is a very small glass. 120 to 150 ml is very small. Pure water is about 500 ml. That's like 1/5 of it. In any single day. In a day, it's per day. In a day. So men up to 240 to 300 ml, and they told us the reason why, and I will make us to know. Now, and they also said, okay, let me just go to that per day. So, in key trials in predicament, participant average, so they didn't even give up to this, they gave just approximately 100 ml per day of wine. So that is about 10 gram alcohol to achieve cardio protection. So it was able to achieve cardio protection, it was able to protect the heart. Then, now, I will talk about the merits and demerits of red wine, because when we talk about taking red wine in church, we have to clarify it. So the merits of red wine, I'll first talk about the danger of taking red wine at all. Above that amount I said, that is where the danger comes in. So, because above that amount, there is going to be risk of taking alcohol, which include hypertension, arrhythmias, and cancer. So, they said the causes of cancer are not known. But now, no, they are getting there to know those things that are causing cancer. So, when you take above that level, you are exposing yourself to hypertension, irregular heart rhythm, that's arrhythmia, cancer. And hypertension can actually make somebody to have heart failure, stroke. Because what makes the blood pressure to increase will be like a resistance in the blood vessel. Why will your blood pump at a high pressure? It's not able to freely flow. So it needs to go on a high pressure. That's what is called high blood pressure. There's a resistance in the blood vessel to blood flow. So it's flowing on a high pressure. And you know, anything you are forcing will just break down. So now, they now said that if you go above this level, the benefits outweigh any potential. When you go above this level, any benefits, the demerits outweigh the potential benefits. And they said, if you don't already drink, if you don't take alcohol at all, most guidelines, including the American Heart Foundation, advise not starting for health reasons, because alcohol has a problem. When you take 100 ml, the necrotic cell of the brain will enjoy it, and we ask for more, will be thirsty. So you go from 100 to 200, from 200 you go to 500, from 500 you go to 1,000. So that is the problem with alcohol. Alcohol in itself is not evil, but it can become an evil agent. So the merits now, the reason why they said we should take some red wine, the merits include the red wine contains polyphenols and antioxidants. Antioxidants mop up free radicals from our system. So that is why sometimes you see that even when you sleep, some free radicals will be mopped up. You see that maybe you initially felt like becoming sick. That thing goes away. The antioxidant that you eat can mop up the free radicals that are indicated in fever. They can mop up free radicals. Even when you sleep too, some free radicals will be mopped up. So the polyphenols and antioxidants in red wine may protect blood vessels. They can lower the low density lipoprotein, the bad fats, oxidation, they can lower it. They can improve endothelial function. So with that, they advise that you can take little red wine. So Number 2, they said moderate ethanol intake, which is in red wine, can raise high density lipoprotein, the good fat, and reduce platelet aggregation. Red wine taken with meals, they found that it slows gastric emptying. That's why I think there's a part in the Bible whereby Paul was advising Timothy to take little wine for the stomach. Yeah, that is a medical background. So wine slows gastric emptying and attenuates postprandial blood sugar spikes, reinforcing a healthy metabolic profile. So our DASH diet, we should not forget that it was researched across races and sex and baselines, and is a good way to lose weight. Then the Mediterranean diet resulted into 30% reduction of cardiovascular diseases risk reduction. DASH diet led to a reduction of 11 mmH reduction. That is about 10% reduction in systolic blood pressure, millimeter mercury of the systolic blood pressure reduction. So that's about 10% rate. So according to New England, so these things have been proven to be effective. Then your plant-rich diet, let there be greens in our foods, led to lower mortality, that is death, lower death rates, reduced inflammation, improved gut health. Now, key takeaways because of our time, so that we can have time also for questions. Number 1, diet drives the majority of non-communicable body. So we should focus on whole foods over ultra-processed foods. The evidence-based, the Mediterranean diets, the DASH diets, the plant-based diets yield robust cardiovascular disease protection, metabolic and mortality benefits. Then our micronutrients and fibers, which are often overlooked, they play a significant role in maintaining good health. Your vitamins, vitamin D especially, your iron and vitamin B12, your fibers. So at this point, I would like to entertain questions. Are you ready for questions? Yes. Hallelujah.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
Number 1, there is this thing that I had some colleague talk about, that there is a relationship between what people that smoke, whether cigarettes, whether vape, whether weed, whatever, and what's it called? You spoke about it.
Autism spectrum.
Autism. That there is a relationship, there is a direct positive relationship between smoking and excessive drinking and autism. Could you want to verify that? Then secondly, while you were speaking, you spoke about whole grains a lot, whether by the Mediterranean diet patterns or as a result of analyzing what we eat and what it does. You spoke about whole grains. I would like you to, 2-in-1, I would like you to give us practical examples of the whole grains. And finally, how do we adjust to, most of us from our background, we're used to the animal-based protein. And when you were analyzing the animal-based protein, you still had some faults about it. And you recommended that we should be doing more of plant-based. How do we adjust our taste to the plants? Because we are used to chicken, fish, egg. Am I speaking your mind? I don't know how we adjust to the plant-based protein.
Thank you, sir. Please, so that I can actually, let me just answer that before another question. Now, according to ResearchGate, there is no research that has been established that alcohol smoking is having any causative power on autism. Those ones have their own risk, like cardiovascular risk, cancer. But there is no research yet that has been able to even associate any significant value to anything up to 5% is significant. So anything less than 5% is not significant. So it's not causal. So taking alcohol heavily, smoking Indian hemp, smoking cigarettes is not causal to autism. I know about 3 families before they relocated to the UK. In the family lineage, there is nothing like autistic children. In those 3 families, but when they came to the UK, they gave birth to autistic children. So autism is a topic that is a topic that we can even, look into, because some want to give birth even at old age, and there are some factors that are actually found associated when the old parental age is one of the associated factors. It's not causal. There are 2 different things in medical terms. When they say something is associated, as they find it associated, it's not the same thing as causal. When we say causal, we are very specific. This thing, if you do it, will cause this. But when we say associated with it, so it is not yet associated at all with autism spectrum. There are some other things that are associated with, let me just mention some of the things that are associated with autism. We have perinatal events, inadequate intake or excessive intake of vitamin B12 and folic acid. When you don't take it at all, you take it too low or you take it too much. So during pregnancy or before pregnancy or shortly before pregnancy or during pregnancy. So things like maternal diabetes, type 1, type 2, gestational. Some people will not be diabetic, but by the time they are pregnant, they become diabetic. Preeclampsia, high blood pressure, when they are in the pregnancy state, those things have been found to be associated, not causal. Because autism they call it autism spectrum disorder. It's not one thing that is responsible, but the basis of this is genetic. You must carry the gene. And the gene is also an African gene. But there are some things that is not making most African children to have it. Because if I mention things that are associated now, you are going to see it. Those things, we might not be exposed to them in Africa as much as they are exposed to those things. Like the heavy chemicals, industrialization, all these emissions. How many industries do we have functioning in Nigeria, for example? But here's industrial. So those things, severe nausea requiring hospitalization. When somebody is pregnant and is under severe nausea that is requiring hospitalization, it can actually make the child autistic. It's associated. Maternal fever, infection, maternal stress hormone, frequent high intensity ultrasounds. That's why for those who have given birth in this country, you find out that when it gets like 22 weeks, they don't do ultrasound for you again. But in Nigeria, they still keep doing it because their own machine has very high intensity. So they stop it till the time you want to deliver, they will not do it again. Is that true? Because somebody said it. Yeah. So it's part of the reason why. Because they have found out that frequent high-intensity ultrasounds. Is it somebody in the village that doesn't have, that is just eating vegetable, that will have money to go and do ultrasound in a private hospital? So how will the person give back to autistic children? So being born preterm, when the child has very low birth weight, low Apgar score, fetal distress, then they found out that even cesarean section, because in this country they don't want to labor, so they said either cesarean section or the condition prompting cesarean section is associated with giving birth to autism spectrum disorder children. Then neonatal jaundice. When the child is seeing jaundice and is not quickly attended to, then the child can become autistic. So the environmental factors too are there. The exposure to heavy chemicals like lead, organophosphates that they use in the rat poisonings, all those things. If somebody smells it during pregnancy heavily, the child is likely going to be at risk of autism. There are some chemicals too they use that contain organophosphates, like those ones that they use in killing grasses. You know, when you those yes. So then the second question you mentioned about this, can you remember?
Plant protein.
The plant proteins, yes. The whole grains. The whole grains are very important. Very important.